Hello everyone, welcome back on our YouTube channel Wains. As you know that we have started a video series for the preparation of theory of German driving license, and we are currently going through topic number 13, which is about the technical questions and other stuff related to technicalities. Until now we have covered 105 questions in 3 videos, and today it's gonna be the last video of this topic number 13, in which we will cover the remaining 40 questions starting from 106 till 145. Before starting the video, if you are new on our channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel, like our videos and share with your friends. So let's start the first question for today, or question number 106 in total. So the question is, what must you reckon with when transporting luggage on the roof of your car? So you are transporting some luggage on the roof of your car. It could be of anything, like for example like this load or some this kind of load on the roof of your car, could be even bicycles. So the vehicle inclined more on bends for sure, like you have the load on the car. Now other than the normal passenger, let's say, or whatsoever, you have the extra load on the car, and whenever you are taking the bends, now because of this load, whenever there is a side wind, for example, or the other environmental pressure, it will be more on your car as compared to the previous. Like when your car is unloaded, then it's pretty, like the braking distance is fine, you can even, you don't need to accelerate that much or push your gas pedal that much to increase your speed. But now the load is put on your car, the weight of your car, or you can say gross weight of your car is increased, and now you will need more power to accelerate, even your car will more inclined on the bends. I think it's a natural feeling, all of us know this. Whenever we have high loads on the car, then maybe on the bends we need to be more careful, otherwise the vehicle, like there is normal no like more incline on the bends. The vehicle road handling is improved on account of the higher center of gravity. No, like it's totally a technical term, center of gravity, it has nothing to take. Just remember, whenever there is a load on the car or some luggage on the car, the road handling is deteriorate. It's not like it's improved, it's like it's decreased actually. Like you have to more accelerate if you want to increase the speed, you have to brake with more power, your braking distance is increased. I think it's a common instinct, we know when our car is loaded, all the maneuvers or like all the controls are anyhow, like they have some burden or strain on them. So, and the vehicle susceptibility to side wing is greater. Now you will feel more pressure. Let's say previously you had only like this part of the car, then wind was only hitting this part. Now you have load as well. Now the wind will, like, maybe I will try to explain you um, like in some way. Like let's say previously you had the car, so let's say the air pressure was, let's say, from this direction, from left to right, but now you have this extra load. Now you will face some more pressure. Now there is more area for the, like, flow of air, pressure of air to to put on your car with luggage. So now you will face more pressure, your car will incline more on the bends, your braking distance will be greater, even you will feel some pressure as well due to environmental conditions. So many things to remember. So susceptibility to side wind is greater, as I explained you. Road handling is anyhow decreased, it's not improved, it's deteriorate. So only two options are correct. Let's move to the next question. What must you do when transporting bicycles on the roof of your car? So you are transporting bicycles, what should you remember? Like, either you can put bicycles directly here on the roof of your car, let's say, or sometimes even on this back side with some stand. So they are asking about the roof. Avoid driving at high speed for sure. Your cycle can, like, detach from the roof, or can fall on the roadway. It's possible. Regularly check the fixing devices, like actually you have fixed the bicycle with some support, with some fixing devices. If you can see over here, let's say you have to check it, like let's say after every let's say 50 kilometer or 100 kilometer, even, like depending on the situation. Safely attach holding devices and bicycles for sure, otherwise your cycle can fall on the roadway, can like block the traffic and create problems from them. So be very careful about this. Let's go to the next question. What must you check when transporting bicycles on rear mounted support system? So this is the rear mounted support system. Let's say this is the roof mounted support system, and if you are putting your car on the back side, I think you have observed this many times in Germany or other European countries, that you have like sometimes bicycles even on the rear mounted side. like on this rear side of the car, and then you have some special devices to support it. So they are asking, what must you check when transporting bicycles on the rear mounted support system? So whether lighting equipment or number plate are covered, very important. We know whenever there is a load, I think this we have discussed in the last video, we will discuss it more. Like maybe because of the cycles at the rear side, your lighting system, your indicator or your rear fog lamp or your hazard warning light like is covered. So if it is covered, you have to put on some extra lighting system, just be very sure. So like lighting equipment or number plate are covered or not, whether system and cycle are fixed safely, for sure, for your safety, for the safety of other road vehicles, whether according to the manufacturer instruction the system is adequate for the vehicle. You can read it in the manufacturer guideline, like does my car support the extra system for the bicycle support or not, like how it will influence the behavior of the car. So just go through the manufacturer instruction or the manual, like either the system is adequate for the vehicle, or maybe you need some extra support, some extra chocks or nets to support your car. So like these things all are very important. Let's go to the next question. How must the load be marked in darkness or bad visibility when it extends laterally more than 40 centimeter beyond the side lights of the vehicle? So now they are asking, like I think we know that currently we have gone through two types of loads. Like the first was when this load is like greater than 1 centimeter, sorry, 1 meter, then you have to put some rear reflectors and rear bag. But if it is exactly 1 meter or less than that, you don't need to put some extra marking for the back side, for the rear side. For the front side, if the height of your car plus load is around 2.5 meter, then you can only bring your car with the load 50 centimeter or 0.5 meter in front of your vehicle. If you, it is maximum, like maximum allowed weight which can which can protrude outside your front side, or which can, like you can say, encroached outside your front side, could be maximum 0.5 meter. If because if it is increased more, then like your front view will be blocked, or maybe you will have some problem to see exactly in front of you. This load actually will distract you. So these were two limitations. Now third limitation we'll see. Whenever your load on the sides is greater than 40 centimeter, then what you have to do, like we have seen for the rear, we have seen for the front. Now this lateral side, or right or left, you can say, if you can see this, if the ladung or load is greater as 40 centimeter, so in that case you have to put some white light on the front and red light on the back. You can see here, I think in this ebook you can see this, like white light on the front and red light on the back. Whenever you like, how must the load be marked in darkness or bad visibility when it, like there should be, like first condition for sure, darkness or bad visibility when it extends laterally more than 40 centimeter beyond the side lights of the vehicle. Then by white light to the front and by the red light to the back. Hazard warning light switching on, I think you know there are some certain conditions, traffic jam, or you have faced some accident, or maybe some other issues that we have discussed in detail. But in this condition, only red and white light. So next question is, what is the maximum height allowed above the roadway for a red light marking a load extended to back? So the maximum, actually the maximum height which is allowed for the load, like we have seen, if your load is like coming more than 1 meter, then you have to mark it with this, like some reflectors and the red light marking load except in the back. But how much could be the maximum height of that load? How much the load is allowed actually? What is the height which is allowed? The load can extend it to the back. It is 1.5 meter. We will try to make a separate video for all of these distances or some measurements. But anyhow, I think you are also continuously loading this all of these measurements and data. So otherwise we will also try to make a separate video as well as a bonus video. But anyhow, here you, like if your load is greater than 1 meter, then you have to like apply some kind of reflectors and a light and bags. But how much maximum height is allowed like beyond the beyond your car at the back side? It is 1.5 meter, not more than that. Just remember this, maximum 1.5 meter is allowed for you, like maximum height allowed above the roadway for a red light marking load a load extended to the back is maximum 1.50 meter. Just remember it. Next question, up to what height is a load not allowed to project over the front of the vehicle? I think this we have already seen. Max, like up to what height? Like if the height is greater than 2.5 meter, like minimum, or you can say like up to 2.5 meter, you are not allowed to extend your load in front of your car. But when the load is above 2.5 meter, then you can extend your load, but only 50 centimeter more, or you see here 0.5 meter. They are asking up to what height is a load not allowed to project over the front of the vehicle. We know this, it is 2.5, or in some cases 2.5, like 2.50 here normally, or even if you write 2.5, I think it's fine, or 2.50 to be accurate, this. But if the height extends 2.5 meter, then our load actually can extend beyond the front side of the mirror, like till 50 centimeter. So 2.50, I think this we have discussed already, is the correct answer. Next question, under what condition is a load allowed to project over the front of a vehicle? So what are the condition? If the load does not project over more than 50 centimeter and is above a height of 2.50 meter. This is the condition in which the load actually can project over the front of the vehicle. If the load is marked with a red light, no, this red light we already know, it's actually for the load which is like extending beyond or the rear side of the car, or maybe lateral right or left, but not for the front side. And then only condition is greater than height of 2.50 meter, and then only 50 centimeter it can be extended. Next question, during a break you find out that one of the lashing straps has torn. What do you do? So I will try to show you here. If you see here, this is lashing straps, like which is like by which we try to secure the load, to make the load secure. So you found that during a break that it has torn, maybe some wear and tear, some problem. What do you do? Continue your trip because a slipping load will be caught by the side panels? No, it's too risky. They are saying that maybe if the load is slipped, then it will be caught by side panels. Maybe if it slipped, it will come on the roadway. You can feel here, it is not safe. Continue your trip when the load is secured by other sufficient securing means, maybe by the nets or some other rope or some other kind of like securing material which you can use, like maybe for example here, any kind of other stuff. Continue your trip after the lashing strap, or if you have replaced the lashing strap, you feel your load is secure, then only you can carry on your journey. Like no, you should not be considering it that the load will be caught by the side panels. No, it could be really dangerous, and even you can face some fines and penalties. Next question, do the requirement for a proper securing load apply to all small transporters? Yes, it applies to all transporter, whichever load you carry. It should not fail on the roadway simply, and it should not endanger the other. They only apply to a small transporter without separation wall to the loading space? No, simply remember, they apply to all small transporters, small, big, all transporter they apply. Like they are saying, like if you have do not have separate section wall to the loading space, like you don't have this kind of separate section, let's say like this section for the load, then you do not need to secure your load, or they only apply to small transporter with open loading space. No, they simply apply. You need to be very sure and secure. That's why simply remember it like this. Next question is, what should be noted when loading vehicles? It is not necessary to secure heavy loads. This option is not correct. You have to secure even more than the lighter loads. The heavy loads you should secure more than that. So this answer is anyhow like beyond the common sense, or this is anyhow wrong. Loads more than 2.50 meter high may not project forward by more than 50 centimeters. This we know. Load that project beyond the retro reflectors by more than 1 meter must be labeled. This we already know with the red bags and lights, as we have seen. Next question, what must you be aware of if you want to transport the load? The load may not cause avoidable noise, exactly, not for you and not for the other participant in the roadway. This is very important. May have individual bars projecting out to the side. No, like they are saying that maybe load have some individual bar, let's say some part of the I think I cannot load the this ebook, but anyhow, yeah, now so they are saying that maybe this some chairs are like, let's say this example is coming till here, like some edges. No, it is really some bars, it is really dangerous for the other traffic as well. It must be secure, should not cause avoidable noise, but including individual bars projecting out to the side, anyhow it is very unsecure. You have to be very sure about it, otherwise it can like block the traffic or can hit the other traffic. So the load should be very uniform and should be secure and safe. So next question is, you want to transport your holiday luggage on the roof of your fully occupied car. What must you observe? The vehicle manufacturer's roof load specification in the operating manual. For sure, like there are some specific, like we have different categories from in the operating manual. Manufacturers tell about how much load you can put on the roof, and then they tell how much total weight can you put in your car, including the roof, for example, inside your seats, on the back side of the car, everything. So there are different specifications. So if you are taking your luggage on the roof, then you should be very careful, and you should read the manufacturer roof load specification in the operating manual. The gross vehicle weight rating of my car, this is very important as well. Like you need to be very careful about this. Like for example, you are putting some load on the car and it is extending the manufacturer prescribed the maximum weight of the car, then maybe your handling of your car is not safe. So you have to read the roof load specification plus the gross vehicle weight. The roof load specification contains the restriction certificate part 1. No, like this actually certificate part 1, I think this we have discussed already in detail in the topic number 1 or topic number 2, I guess. Like it contains information about type of your license, how many load with how till up to which load you can drive the car, how many trailers, your like where you have registered your car, etc. But it never contains the specification about the car. It is in the vehicle manual. Certificate part 1 is very general for all, but if you want to see something about your specification of the car, then you have to you have to refer to, you need to be concerned about the operating manual of the vehicle, because it varies from vehicle to vehicle, how much load they can carry, how strong they are. Certificate part 1 has nothing to do with the roof load specifications of the vehicle weight specifications. Next question, what can interfere with your view? Load, yes, like maybe at the back side, at the front side, at the rear side, if the load is protruding or is extended, maybe you cannot see in the back mirror, in the front mirror whatsoever. So there could, like load can interfere. Even worn wiper blades, like if it's raining or due to any reason you switch on your wiper blades and they are worn, even they are creating some lines on your windscreen, it can interfere your view. Even smeared windows, if your windows are not properly like neat and clean, then even that can create problem for you. Like it can interfere your view, your rear view, your side view mirror. So like all three options, I think it's very simple and straightforward. Next question, what must you do to avoid endangering other by equipment or load which has fallen off your vehicle? So like let's say some load is fallen off from your vehicle, what is your duty? Depending on the situation, proceed and inform the nearest municipal office, or like it's a different, you can think it like ordnungsamt or whatsoever. It has nothing to do with the like road handling or some load on the roadway. No, like municipal office is a different thing, I think you know it. Secure the danger spot and immediately inform the road service or police. It's road service or police which is responsible, not the municipal office. Remove the parts yourself, like how much you can, like how much load you can clear from the roadway, just clear it, and then you can inform the police or road service and make this scene clear as well. This we know already, so that the flow of traffic is not blocked, or is not like there is no blockage for the traffic, I would say. Next question is, what load securing equipment is to be used in the car? I think this we know. Chocks, I think many of you already know this. Chocks which we put inside like down, like below our tires, like maybe they are not like on an incline, let's say they will not roll out or will not like go downwards from the slope. Sometimes we put some chocks here to make the car stable or to stop it from rolling, which is like stopper. So chocks, like chocks has nothing to do with securing of the load. We can never secure a load with chocks. We can save it with safety nets and lashing straps. I think this we already know. Nets, you know, I think this kind of nets, no, this not this, but anyhow this is your lashing straps. But net, I think you know, like net, which is for tennis net or basketball net whatsoever, you can put the whole net on your load. This I think you already know. So but chocks anyhow, they have nothing to do with this load securing. Next question is, you want to transport a load on the roof of your car. How will this influence the handling of your car? So you have load now, as I told you, your handling of your car, will have some issues, like you have to put more power on the accelerator, maybe your braking distance increase, so the acceleration power will be reduced for sure. Now you have more load, you have to put more power on the gas pedal to increase the speed. I think it's common sense, you can feel it. The braking distance will be extended. Previously your car was not overloaded, now it's overloaded. If you brake, you have to maybe put more pressure on the brake, or with the same pressure your car will cover more distance to be stopped. The susceptibility to the crosswinds will be reduced. No, this we have discussed, it is increased actually. Now this crosswind will find more area to hit your car, so it will be increased. This we have discussed few questions back. Next question is, what can be used to secure loads in a car? So like how can you secure loads in the car? This anti-slip mat, yes, I think I will not be able to show you here, but you can google it. Like it secures the load to like go left or go right. The tensioning belt, yes, the belt as well, the luggage net, everything is correct in this. I think you maybe even you are doing your driving license, maybe you know all of these terms which are being put in our car. We know this anti-slip mat, tensioning belt and luggage net, everything is correct. If you have any issue, you can google it, or even if you are even facing some problem, then just put it in the comment section. We will try to make a separate video on that. Or like if we have many doubts, we will put all together in one video to discuss, no problem at all. So next question is, what should you remember when loading luggage into a car luggage compartment? So you know this back side of the car, it is called car luggage compartment. So they are saying, what should you remember when you are putting load here? Store the warning triangle in an easy accessible place. I think you know this warning triangle. Whenever you have an accident on the roadway, you have to put this warning triangle 100 meter like before your accident. So if God forbid if some accident occurs, you should find that waist jackets or waistcoats and this triangle immediately. So it's quite simple. Maybe you have put it here beyond this, like this some bag or whatsoever, it will take some time to take it out. Even you have to put your stuff out from your car, this luggage compartment. So just store a triangle where it can be very easily accessible. Place heavy luggage at the bottom, I think it's common sense. We place the heavy luggage and then we put the normal luggage. Secure the luggage against slipping, for sure it is also your duty. Maybe while driving the bag is is creating some noise for you and your concentration is lost, so you need to secure the luggage. I think these all are very clear answers. Next question is, while driving you use your vehicle adaptive cruise control system. So here on the road where you see snow overall, what is adaptive cruise control system? Like one is cruise control system in which you fix the speed and it travels on the same speed, but adaptive cruise control system is actually like it reads the road conditions, and then based on that it like sometimes brakes independently, increase the safety distance, and then like different functionalities. We have discussed a lot this topic already. So they are saying that while driving you use your vehicle adaptive cruise control system. What must you anticipate in these weather conditions? So if you see what will happen in these weather conditions, adaptive cruise control system cannot read the road marking, cannot read properly maybe traffic signs. So what will happen? I have to personally control my speed and distance, because this we have discussed a lot. Like in the weather conditions, when weather conditions are worst, maybe our advanced driving assistance systems will not help us in that way. So you have to be very careful. You have to personally control your speed and distance. The adaptive cruise control system stop the vehicle? No, it will never stop the vehicle. Like 100% stop the vehicle, it's never possible by adaptive cruise control system. You have to do it by your own. The functionality of the ACC, adaptive cruise control system, for sure may be negatively affected. As I told you, in case of rain, snow, whatsoever, the road markings are not clear, the road signs are not clear. So how this adaptive cruise control system will help you? So anyhow, the functionality of ACC will be negatively affected. These two answers are correct. Let's go to the next question. Why is it dangerous if passengers sitting in the rear do not wear the seat belts? Like like we have to put on the seat belts. Everybody has to put on the seat belt on the front, on the rear side. So they are saying like if they are not putting the seat belt, the persons on the back side, on the rear side, like why is it dangerous? Could result in injuries to the person in front seats, like maybe like a crash occurs, as told, a crash, and then they are pushed towards the front side and will injure the people on the front seat. That's why they have to put on the seat belts. Could result in injuries even at low speed. Even you are traveling, let's say at 25 or 30 or 20 kilometer per hour, or even lesser than that. Like it, if you are not wearing the seat belt, it could cause injury for you. Could propel these persons from the vehicle. Even like if there is a, for God forbid, heavy accident, the gates are open, let's say, maybe if without seat belt they will propel away from the vehicle, then they can they can hit like they could be hit from the other vehicles, god forbid. So like that's why the safety belt is very critical for you and for the family. So if you see, this answer is correct. So let's move to the next question. Our next question is, you are driving a truck with a trailer and wish to give someone lift as a favor. That's nice. Where are you allowed to carry such a passenger? In the driver's cab, yes, you have to like give him place where like he or she has proper seat belt. So in driver cab, on the floor of the truck, there is no safety, no seat belt. It is never allowed on the floor of the truck. Even on the floor of the trailer, no way. Like if you are carrying some trailer and maybe you are putting that person in the trailer, it's not allowed. Simply the driver cab. Maybe in if I think in one of the upcoming questions we will see that maybe like if he has to perform some necessary work, then maybe he can be on the like floor of like on that of the truck where there is load. He can accompany the load only, but you are giving a lift. In that case, only in driver cab. On the floor of the truck or trailer is not allowed. He or she needs to be secure, like by putting the seat belt on and whatsoever. So driver cab is the correct answer. Next question, what must you ensure before setting off on a journey in your car? So what should you do? That the passenger can put on the existing safety belts, for sure, very critical for you and for the other passenger in the car. That no object like first aid kit, road atlas, camera are lying loose on the rear parcel shelf. Like I think maybe you see this here over here, like this rear parcel, like this compartment, luggage compartment of the car here, like they are saying that nothing should be like loose here, because otherwise it will distract your view or your rear view mirror. So anyhow, you should be like very sure this very sure that this first aid kit, road atlas, camera are if they are lying loose on the rear parcel shelf, you have to like keep them tight or you have to put them somewhere else. So it is very important that you have an adequate view to the rear. So ideally you should have the like a clear view of all like rear or front or sides, but in this option anyhow they have asked about the rear, so all three options I think they are pretty obvious are correct. How are you allowed to transport a small child in your car? So actually there are different, I think this we will discuss like in detail. We will have more questions about this, how you will carry, because there are different criterias. If like first of all, the very important thing, you should use the approved seat, with a sign that it is tested or test benchmark. And then there are different kind of seats. For example, if it is a like front, let's say this, like if the head of the, like you can say it's a front carried a child seat, then back carried child seat. For example, if you are putting your child on the front seat with airbag activated, then you should put him like his face should be in the direction of travel, not like this against the direction. Otherwise, if this airbag opens, it can hit your, it can push the seat and can, god forbid, can hit your child. So like, and then but if you have a seat which is designed in that way that it only face the rear, like you can say it will be always opposite to the direction of travel, then you have to deactivate the airbags. And then if you are like putting your child on the back seats, there are different criterias. We will see all questions in detail. Like either you can put your child, his head is like against the direction of travel. If you put in this, it will be in the direction of travel. I will again try to mark it so that you can see it more clearly. I think red will be the fine color here. So here, yeah, this one, if you see, this one is, you can say like if you put your kid here, he will be facing the front side or direction of the car. But like if you yeah, I think this we can see. I'm not able to make it clear. Yeah, here, let's see. So in this condition, if you see this side, now the child will his head or face will be here, and he will be opposite to the direction of travel, his face towards like seat. So there are different conditions actually which you can see. So we will discuss anyhow all of them in detail. So first question is about this topic: how are you allowed to transport a small child in your car in an approved restraint with test mark? Like child restraint, child seat with test mark, like you have to 100%, like you cannot take him or her on the lap of an adult or in baby carry cot on one of the back seats, like carry cot normally which we use while walking on the road, you can only use a child seat or child restraint with test mark. This is very important, otherwise you can be fined as well. So only the approved child restraint with the test mark is the correct answer, not on the lap or some carry cot. For the car, for traveling, we have some dedicated designed or tested, you can say, approved child seats that you have to use. Next question: how are you allowed to transport a 5-year-old child in your car? So if if he's a 5-year-old, we will see in the upcoming question as well a topic related to this. So how are you allowed to transport a 5-year-old child in your car on a back seat with waist belt fastened? No, he's a child or she's a child, you say. You have to use a as we have seen, that approved seat, not on the back seat with the waist belt fastened as like with the older people or the young people, let's say, who are more than 5. We simply put the seat belts. No, for the kids until 5 years old, if they are, we have to use um, uh, some specific child seats or whatsoever. In a back seat with standard 3-point safety belt? No, in a suitable and approved child seat with a test mark. Simply 5-year-old child till 5 year. We will see we will see some more questions just after this question, so everything will be clear to you. So anyhow, for a child, you have to use a suitable and approved child seat with a test mark. On the back seat with the belt fastened, as we do with the normal people or the older people, and similarly with the back seat with the standard 3-point safety belt, these options are not correct. Only third option is correct. So the next question is: what should be borne in mind when using a approved child seat with test mark? So what should you keep in mind? The child seat must be appropriate for the height and weight of the child. This is very, I think, very clear. Maybe your kid is like anyhow, like his height is quite good, although he's under 5, let's say, and then his weight, considering that only, you will purchase your child seat. So this answer is pretty obvious. The child seat must be capable of attachment to the seat of the vehicle for which it is intended, because anyhow you have to put your this child seat in your car. That's like this. You have to put your child seat anyhow, somehow here on your seat, so it should be fit on the seat as well. Nothing apart from test mark. No, you need to be very sure that your seat suits your child. So many things to remember other than this test mark. So next question is: why is it dangerous not to wear safety belts? So if you are not wearing safety belt, then because of the low speed, there is no danger in urban traffic. There is danger even if it's low speed, even you are in urban traffic inside build up areas. If you are not wearing safety belt, it is very it is very dangerous. So this answer is anyhow not correct. There is no danger in urban traffic with low speed, because you cannot adequately protect yourself in case of an impact at a speed of even about 20 km per hour. Just have a look here. Even 20 km per hour, you will not be able to protect if it is an impact, if there is an accident, god forbid, because in case of an accident you can be projected out of the vehicle. Even it is also possible. This we have discussed few questions back. Next question is: at which impact speed must you reckon with a serious or deadly injuries when no safety belt is worn? From 30 km per hour onward. I think even in the last question we have seen 20 km per hour, but here there is no such option to fit. For 50 and 80 are too much speeds. So as we have seen at 20, even in the last question we have seen 20 km per hour. So anyhow, the least option, the lesser option is 30 km per hour, which is correct. Let's move to the next question. Our next question is: a car is equipped with 2 front airbags. On which seats must safety belts be worn? So as we know that normally we have the airbags only on the front seat of the car. Whenever you have some accident, they will be opened automatically. But they are asking, equipped with 2 front airbags, on which seats must safety belt be worn? Safety belt, irrespective of airbags, you have to put on every seat, on all seats. On the front seats only, not on the front seats. No, although on the front seats you have this airbag, but still on the all seats you have to put on the safety belts. Airbag is the other thing, and safety belt is a lower kind of protection, and airbag is like in the maximum impact or some severe accident, let's say. With the help of sensors, this airbag will be open to protect you, but seat belt is always important. Let's move to the next question. You wish to take several small children home after a children's birthday party. What must you observe when using your car? So simple, I think what we know, like they should have this child seats. It is sufficient to secure the children with the existing safety belt? No, this we already know. Child restraint need not to be used within build-up areas? No. Child must be secure with prescribed child restraints. This test mark and with the test mark seats, approved children seats. Like they are saying that they should not be used in build-up areas, or it's sufficient to put the existing safety belt as the older people do. No, children are an exceptions, and we have to be very careful about them. They like prescribed seats should be used for them. Next question is, what is important to consider about headrest? I think you know this term headrest now. Anyhow, I will explain it here again. These are the headrests, like where you can put your head. For the rear seats, they replace the safety belt. No, they never replace the safety belt. Oh, they are only for your comfort. They have nothing to take with safety belt. They are optimally adjusted by the factory. No, they could never be like 100% optimal for everybody. They could be adjusted by the factory. Like we know there are different heights of the people in the world. Someone is like much higher as compared to the other good height. So for them, for each passenger you have to adjust them. So they can never be optimally adjusted by the factory. You have to adjust them to the height according to the operating manual. Like just go through the operating manual. How can you adjust them? Adjust like as we know, the basic requirement is that your head should be directly like center of the head should be somewhere here on your headrest. So you have to adjust it as per the operating manual. Let's move to the next question. While you are driving, the airbag control light stays on constantly. What must you do? Like you are driving and even you have put, let's say, your like a safety belt as well, and at the same time you see this airbag control light also stays on constantly. What must you do? So I think like there could be some problem with the indication of airbag, let's say, or you have to check it. Go to a garage workshop. Yes, nothing, because it is an indication of garage workshop or the garage workshop. No, you have to take some action. You have to go to garage. Take the vehicle off the road immediately. No, like it's not that issue. For example, you are on a motorway, let's say, or some other busy road. You cannot take your vehicle off immediately from the road. It's not a like severe indication that like some kind of severe indication for you. It's only an airbag control light which is continuously switched on. Maybe there is some problem with the light indication, some other issues with the LED or whatsoever, or the bulb. So it is not the reason that either you take off the your vehicle immediately off the road, or do nothing. No, both options are extreme. Just carry on your journey and go to the workshop and let it check that what happens with the this light of the airbag control light. So it's only control light, it's not giving you some warning signal. Next question is, how can you prevent a child from opening a door while the vehicle is moving? So this is, I think many of you maybe know, there is a child safety lock on the rear doors. Like in the cars we have a special child lock. The central locking system actually locks the whole car. If you, whenever you are like from the driver's seat you are locking your car, like it will lock the whole car. It has nothing to take especially with the child. So if you have to prevent a child from opening a door other than the central locking system or your locking of the car, you have to put on an extra safety, which is a child lock. I think if I can show you here, I'm not sure, but sometime here like on the gate somewhere here we can see a button for the child lock. So you have to put some extra safety for the children. The next question is, what should be observed when positioning the headrest in your car? So what should you observe? The top of the head should be level with the upper edge of the headrest. This we already I think this is the purpose of headrest. Your head should be level with the upper edge of the headrest. The upper edge of the headrest should conjoin with the upper neck. But no, I think you will never put your neck. You will never like to put your neck on this headrest. Like it's not the purpose of the headrest. This option is not correct. The top of your head should be level with the headrest. The spacing between the rear of the head and the headrest should be as small as possible, so that you have a good comfort. Like if it's a spacing, you cannot like put your head in a good manner on the headrest, then it's not a good feeling, not a good comfort. Spacing should be minimum, and top of your head should be level with the upper edge of the headrest. So let's move to the next question. You want to carry a child in your car. What must you use a child seat for this purpose? So just remember, you can only use the child seat for a child who is like younger than 12 and his height is under 150 centimeter. Just remember it. child seats, specific child seats are only made for some kids who are 12-year-old or who are younger than 12-year-old, and their height is less than 150 centimeter. These are two conditions. If the child is younger than 12-year-old and is under 150 centimeter height, this answer is correct. If child is older than 12-year-old, you don't need to use the seat belt. If child is older than 12-year-old, you don't need to you don't need to use the child seat. If he is younger than 12-year-old and is under 150 centimeter height, then you should use this prescribed child seat for your kid or children. Let's move to the next question. You want to drive with a baby in the passenger seat. What do you have to be aware of when using an infant carrier? So whenever you are using an infant carrier, you want to drive with a baby in the passenger seat. What are the things you need to remember? The infant carrier must be positioned reversed to the direction of travel. So like in this case, like you have you are using an infant carrier, like infant, let's say the child is 2 or 3 months old. So normally for those kind of child, for the infants, we have I will try to show you here. It's loading, I guess. Access item, yeah, here. Normally for the infants, we have this kind of seat, which actually, like, in which the kid face is not in the direction of travel but opposite direction of travel. So in that case, the infant carrier must be positions reverse to the direction of travel. Or like, even if you for the infants, it is highly prescribed that you should, for the infants only, you should put them always opposite direction of travel. Like I will try to show you here. Let's say on the rear seat, you should always put them in such a way that they should be opposite to direction of travel, like in this way. If you are putting this carrier on the back side, it should be put in the same way. Their face, for the infants only, their face should be opposite to direction of travel. So this thing is important. The baby must be strapped into the infant carrier. Like, you should also put the seat belt as well, and then his own, the seat itself contains some safety belt, both of them. If installed, the passenger airbag must be deactivated. Very, very important. Like, for example, you are putting your infant on the front side. If you are putting him on the or her on the back side, then simply put him or her against the direction of travel. You don't need to deactivate safety bag. But by chance, if you are putting, like, if you are taking them on the front seat, then you remember this picture. It can, if the airbag needs to be opened because of any reason, let's say, then like, it will create pressure on the back side, and your child could be hit. So in that case, you have to deactivate the airbags on that side only where children is there, because anyhow he will be saved. You don't need to be, you don't need airbag for him or her, because this, anyhow this seat will be fine in some cases. Or otherwise, if this seat is open, if this some accident occurs and airbag is open, then definitely this airbag will hit child in this way. So, and if installed, the airbag must be this we have already seen. So all three options are correct. Let's go to the next question. What information should you obtain before undertaking a journey with a purely electric vehicle? So if you are taking purely electric vehicles, what should you remember? The location at which I can charge the vehicle, because anyhow you will not find the as for the other internal combustion engine cars, you cannot find petrol stations, benzene stations, or whatsoever everywhere. So you need to be very sure where you can find the charging for your electric vehicles. Nowadays system is being developed, it is under development. So it is not you can find charging stations everywhere, like after every 20 kilometer, or let's say. So you need to mark your places where you can charge your car. Factors that influence the range. Yes, actually, these electric cars are totally based on the batteries, and then you have to remember that maybe if it's too hot, the discharging will be quick of the batteries, for example. So even the weather conditions, you have to be very you should have good knowledge about the factors that influence your range. You can read it in the vehicle manufacturer manual as well. What I have to do following an accident, because for your normal cars which are not electric cars, if you have some accident, so like you can call some insurance company, your insurance company, or maybe there are some famous groups in Germany especially, where you can call them, they will repair your car. But electric vehicles, like, sometimes need some experts in that domain. Maybe they will not be able to help you. Even if you have an accident, somebody can tow your car, So you have to be very careful, like what I have to do following an accident. All things you need to keep in mind if you are using an electric car. You are planning a longer journey with a purely electric vehicle. What should you be aware of? The availability of electric charging stations. Other, like if you are planning, let's say, 1,000 kilometer journey, and you don't know where is charging station, after let's say 300 kilometer, 350 kilometer, your charging is finished and you are helpless on the road. So that's why you need to be very sure that where you can find charging stations. The influence of external ambient temperatures on the range. Sometimes if temperature varies, then the charging and discharging of battery varies. In that condition you have to be very sure. Just remember, like it depends, like the weather, with the weather condition, the charging and discharging is affected. The battery charging time, you should also know, also remember it, like how much time my the main battery of my car takes to be charged. You also need to be sure. In that way you can plan your time. Maybe you have planned something, you have some, like some event with your friends, and then, oh, you say them, oh, my charging is taking more time than usual. So you have to keep everything in mind when you are planning a long journey, even a shorter journey. You have to remember many things. So next question is, what should you be aware of when charging purely electric vehicles? Charging is available at every filling station? No. As I told you, you can never tell that charging is available at every filling station. So you have to mark specific stations where you can find charging for electric vehicles. Charging should only be performed with a charging cable approved by the manufacturer. As you know, even I will give you an example of mobile phones. From the mobile phone manufacturer, we have different type of cables, different kind of chargers which they recommend us to be used. Similarly with the electric vehicles, you can only use that charging cable, like depending on the power current which your battery is taking, and the size of the cable depends on them. So just to be very sure that you are using the same charging cable which is being approved by the manufacturer. The charge time depends on the power supply. I think this you already know. If your power supply is somehow quicker, your car will be charged very quick. So I think even you know from the power supply of your laptops and your mobiles that sometime it, like charging time is totally different when you're using a different charger. Similarly with the electric vehicle as well, like the charging time depends on the power supply which you are using. So this answer is correct. Let's move to the next question. So our next question is, how is a purely electric vehicle different from a vehicle with a combustion engine? So you know this combustion engine, like the normal cars, internal combustion engine. So they are asking, how is a purely electric vehicle different from a vehicle with a combustion engine? Purely electric vehicles do not have any direct exhaust emissions. Yes, you know, for the combustion engine we have like some fuel, with a mixture of fuel and whatsoever, like we have some, I think those who are from the mechanical field, I will not go in depth into that internal combustion engine, but we have some burning, some ignitions, and then in the combustion engine car this exhaust emissions are created. But in electric cars we know there are batteries, there are no direct exhaust emissions. We could have some emissions from the batteries as well, but not exhaust emissions. Like it's a different kind of pollution. Maybe if we find some time we can discuss in detail, but anyhow they do not have any direct exhaust emissions that we have in case of normal cars, like in which fuel is burned and whatsoever. Have a lower aerodynamic drag? No, actually aerodynamic drag is like the pressure, let's say the pressure, the side wind or the pressure of air on your car. It's same, it never thinks like the air pressure like it's an electric car, it's a combustion engine car. No, aerodynamic drag or the, let's say, air pressure is always same any kind of vehicle. It never varies from vehicle to vehicle. Have a lower engine noise? This we already know, because for the combustion engine we have this like a heavy engine which is like depending on the fuel, and like this kind of fuel which we are using, some burning, so some noise of the engine as well. But in electric vehicles we don't have any kind of noise. It totally works on the batteries. So this we already know. Let's go to the next question, which is the last question for this big topic. You are driving a purely electric vehicle in a residential area. What should you be aware of due to your lower engine noise? You don't have engine noise now, and normally with electrical vehicles, very low engine noise. So what is a problem? Vehicles following behind will tailgate me? No. Tailgating can happen even with the other cars. You know tailgating, like some car is pushing you from the back. Hey, give more speed and whatsoever. In that case, you have to increase your safer distance and whatsoever. But it can happen with any car, not specifically with the electric vehicle. It can happen with any car. So this option is not correct. Pedestrian will notice me or will do so later than usual, because you know with the normal cars you hear the engine noise, like some car is coming from my back, and you will be very careful while crossing the road. But in case of electric cars, you don't have that noise, and what will happen? Pedestrian will not notice you, or even will do it later than usual. Cyclists traveling ahead will turn left without looking behind them. Similarly, the cyclist, like normally when there are normal cars, you feel that if you are like driving a cycle, you will hear the noise of the engine of the car is coming, and you will be very careful. You will turn your head and will see how far is car from me. But in case of electric cars, you do not have that noise, and the cyclist will directly come on the road, like he or she will think no car is behind me or whatsoever, because of the low engine noise. So these two options are correct. So friends, this was everything from the this technical part. I hope we have clarified your doubts, and our explanation was good enough for you to understand everything. But anyhow, if you have any question, any doubt, any feedback, just put it in the comment section or write us an email. Our team will reply you. Until the next video, we wish you very happy learning. And then one more thing, as we are very near to the finish of the theory of German driving license, now we will upload some bonus videos, which could be like, for example, exam questions. I will ask you, if you want, you can, like, after all the videos, you can go to the for proofing mode or the exam mode of your app which you are using. Just give the exam, a practice exam, and record the video and share it with us. If you want, we will publish it, we will upload on our YouTube channel with your name, or even if you want, with your picture as well. And then we will also upload some bonus videos. If you want to share us some different information with us, some different videos with us related to driving license theory, we will be more than happy to share it on our YouTube channel. So until the next video, until the next topic, we wish you happy learning. We wish you a very good luck for your German driving license theory preparation, as well as if you're doing practical exam. Until the next video, take care and bye.